There are three trigger words causing the destruction of Bantu oneness. These are being used to trigger xenophobic and Afrophobic violence against African brothers and sisters. We must all cop the blame for allowing these words to be etched in our conscience and memory with erroneous definitions. These words are foreigner, suspected criminal selling drugs, and xenophobic attack. Linjani Matabe Zulu. Xenophobia against Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Kenyans, Zambians, Mozambicans, and other Bantu nations is evil. Sloganeering trigger words, dog whistling words are used to trigger these xenophobic attacks. And who is doing this and who is behind this? Let us look into this seriously. Those peddling illicit drugs and substances must face the full wrath of the law. In South Africa, they must reinstitute the capital punishment, death by hanging or firing squad, of anyone prosecuted and found guilty of manufacturing, distributing, or selling drugs. That must cut across all people, all races, not only targeting one specific individual group because of dog whistling or trigger words being employed by others for their own gain. There is an invisible hand, a hidden force, or a third party that is benefiting by sponsoring violence via mob psychological activities in South Africa. Only three general groups stand to benefit from xenophobic attacks. These are those that put apartheid in place. For them, they stand justified that black people or Bantus cannot rule themselves. And also the Berlin Conference of 1884-1885 that fired off the scramble for Africa stands to benefit and continue to be in place because the borders that we are using to define who is a foreigner were not crafted by our ancestors or by anyone with favor or favorable attitude towards us, but the colonizer and enslaver, and woe to us, we are still using these borders today. In addition, the Chinese, who are the new colonizer, stand to benefit because they plow money in. They also have control and they will benefit over xenophobic attacks because when we attack our own brothers and their businesses, they come in and fill up the gap. Are you being controlled by trigger words? Who is a foreigner? To the benefit of many others, Africa Unite, say no to xenophobia, Gestimania.com, campaign against xenophobia. This is plausible. The word foreigner, according to the mob or criminal activities we see here on social media and used by South African brothers and sisters in interviews, applies to other Africans. How did this come about? In that sense, foreigner is a trigger word to harass, kill, and abuse another African, not the real foreigner. So who is benefiting? When you loot and destroy African-owned businesses, who will fill up the vacuum? Brothers and sisters, we must stop killing our own racial kin and folk and support each other to the hilt. Evidence that the trigger word foreigner is misapplied and the masses think a foreigner is anyone black is clear when you realize that they have never attacked or there has never been an attack on anyone else's business or anyone else rather than an African brother and sister in any xenophobic attacks. What's the opposite of xenophobia? Love, tolerance, fairness, goodwill, impartiality, approval, happiness, admiration, fondness, and liking. These are the sources and the more proof for what we are saying here and about this xenophobic system and trigger words and dog whistling. Why do people attack foreigners? It's a perception that has been put in the mind, and Human Resources Research Council proves that since the 1990s. Why xenophobia? Does it exist? Is it real? What can we do? They teach, they show, and prove that Human Resources Study contributes to the debate by asking ordinary South Africans using public opinion data from the South African Social Attitudes Survey. By understanding how the public views this important question, we can better comprehend which xenophobia prevention mechanism could be most acceptable to the general population. Education, knowing who is a foreigner, is more important. Knowing our history, like that this is Africa, African kingdoms, before all the Berlin Conference borders came in place. Monomtapa, the Zulu Kingdom, Kilwa, Malawi, Lunda, Luba, Rwanda, Buganda, Congo, Ethiopia, Kush, Kemet, Carthage, the old wall of Ghana, Ashanti, Yoruba, Ibibio, Kenen, Bomu, Songe. These are our kingdoms. That's what we must be proud of. That's what we must re-establish, not these borders that were crafted in Europe. Who benefits? It's the real foreigner. Xenophobia and the meaning of Ubuntu. Ubuntu is the Nguni Bantu term meaning humanity towards others. This is a powerful cartoon by Zapiro. He says, I could tell he was a foreigner. He didn't know the meaning of Ubuntu. South Africa population comparison. See all the blue here? These are South Africans. Over 94%. Only 2.8% are foreigners. And out of this 2.8%, they targeting only Africans. Forgetting that an African cannot be a foreigner in Africa. This is what we must teach. He is your brother. She is your sister. She is you. He is you. You are one. An African cannot be a foreigner in Africa, no matter what. If they are engaged in prostitution, promotion of drugs, evil activities, let the law take effect and force. Let's have the death penalty back in South Africa to hang criminals engaged in murders, in drug trafficking, in prostitution, and many other activities, smuggling wealth, importing foreign doctrines. Let's have capital punishment back again. Dog whistling words, selling drugs, prostitution, etc. But which foreigners? We know that there are others that killed millions and destroyed generations. And we have a minister here saying many Nigerians in South Africa are drug traffickers. Why? Now, here are the big questions. Why not prosecute them? If you know, like what you are saying, where is the law? Why are we letting these people continue? Do we fight crime with crime? What is the duty of the South African police and the drug enforcement agencies? And why haven't they brought evidence on national television, parading the culprits like what they do in other countries and hanging them? Why not? Why would a minister use such dog whistling sounds, such dog whistling words? Attacking other black brothers working in South Africa, burning them, setting them on fire, looting shops and belongings to other South Africans as well as black Africans nationalities is totally ignorant, because there must be someone who is dog whistling trigger words using mob psychology, because these are the strategies we see in mob psychology and we witness in xenophobic attacks. This opens doors for the real foreigner to settle and take over Africa as well as South Africa. Tribal identity must be based on totems. If history is to be told, someone who claims South African citizenship must trace his or her brothers and sisters in Zimbabwe, in Kenya, in Zambia, in Mozambique, in West and East Africa using totems. There are scholars today who are pouring water on totems. Totems are African. They are not artificial. They are real. I have a totem. Every African must have a totem. Those scholars that come and say, totems, this and that, you are lost. You are losing it. That's our only identity left untouched. That's the only key we can use to unite ourselves. Nothing else except totems. They bind us, not only in Africa, but across the whole earth. Only totems. If you are black, you must have your totem. If you don't know your totem, find your totem. Connect with your brothers across the whole of Africa. Activate your totem and live life of totemism. Lopsided economic development. We are all to blame. Africa is a continent rich with untold wealth. It's the richest continent on earth. But our leaders, both in business and elsewhere, have failed us. I have failed Africa. You have failed Africa. Let us correct this. The obvious solution was uttered by the astute president of Ghana, former president of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah, who observed constantly, with all this wealth, there is no reason why African people should be poor, or why African people should be lopsided and living in one part of Africa, here only, here only. Look at the vastness of Africa. So why not here? Why not develop everywhere? In the kingdoms that we spoke of, it is clear, said Kwame Nkrumah, that we must find an African solution to our problems, and that this can only be found in African unity. Divided, we are weak. United, Africa would become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. This is where we must be aiming and where we are going. Two prominent men, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, who was demonized by the West, but here are some of the things that he did: free healthcare, interest-free loans, free electricity, newlyweds receive 50,000, mothers receive 5,000 on giving birth. All citizens receive a percentage of all oil exports from the country. Free education, no central bank, homes considered a human right. And then, no leader has followed this plan, except Robert Rosenthal, who has come up and has been traveling all over Africa with his bullion bank for Africa, where he wants to utilize gold as collateral and investment instrument to develop Africa. These are the people that we must support. These are the people that are actually distributing wealth and teaching how we can quell and remove xenophobic mentality amongst ourselves. Not these leaders who utter inflammatory announcements implying that other Africans are foreigners. These have become the trigger springboards, trigger words for mob behavior, animosity, and real hate against brothers and sisters by folks who feel alienated and not heard or seen. They suggest to those with emotional or cognitive difficulties like thugs, or for those who may be struggling with rational thinking and prone to impulsivity and delusions, to be easy prey by third parties in the shadows to destroy, kill, maim their own brothers and sisters. We must be ashamed that we have uttered such inflammatory remarks, which create xenophobia against Nigerians, Zimbabweans, Kenyans, Zambians, Mozambicans, and other Bantus all over Africa. And this is evil. We are all to blame. Politicians, the masses, business people, teachers, priests, those in the intelligence, and those who loot and destroy their own brothers and sisters' efforts, whether peddling drugs, money launderers, prostitution, or false doctrines. Let us speak against the spell of trigger words and dog whistling tricks. If you want to contribute, you are free to drop us an email at join@marifado.com. Subscribe to our channel, Committee Iburu Ethics, Marifado Development Organization. This is our email. Contact us on this email. This preacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu. Pants! Ele xenophobia. Pambili. Lokubambana. Pamberi. Nokubatana. Thank you. Goodbye.